Craigslist.io.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of You Deserve Fresh Lettuce. I am your co-host Rachel.
And I'm Delia.
Welcome to season 2.
Welcome.
In this episode, we're going to be talking about double standards between men and women. Oh my gosh.
Woo.
Let's get into it. Hey, don't forget to follow us on social media at YDFL Podcast.
And YouTube. Subscribe, listen, share with a friend, share
Yep.
with 3 friends.
Yep.
Share the knowledge
Share
and the
it.
funniness.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
The humor.
The humor.
All right, so we're talking about double standards. You know, the age old or adage, whatever you say, that, you know, it's like the men do their thing, women do their thing, women can't do what men do, blah, blah, blah. So what's your take on it? Like the whole double standard thing?
I think we've caught up to men, in my opinion. But the double standard's always going to be there. And why I say that is, like, you have like the Cardi B's of the world, and you have the younger generation that feel that since she does it and she is a stripper that kind of came up, literally she was on the come up, and then the girls kind of want to emulate that. And I think that there is always going to be a double standard no matter what, because it's a lot of things. Like, women can't do what man can do, and vice versa. But forever and ever, men, I mean, it's not anything to look down upon if a man has sex with like 40 women, but if a woman has sex with 4 guys, she's a hoe bag. Also, in addition to that, like the guys that date younger women, that's okay. But now we're moving into cougarism.
Cougarville.
Do you
Welcome
have
to
cougarism? It's not contagious, by the way, I don't think. But now it's becoming so normal if a woman dates a younger guy. I know 20 years ago that would have been so taboo.
Yes.
But that's the double standard that, you know, we're accustomed to, we're used to. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's the recap of like all of the examples of it, and it's so true. It's still prevalent. I mean, you're right. If a man has a body count of 40 and she has 4, it's a little bit like
it's kind of frowned upon,
and
for
then
sure.
And then they say, hey, whatever number she gives you, take it and multiply it by 3 or 10 or some crazy thing.
Well, then you're back at your like even scores there, but she's
and then
not telling you.
I was actually in a forum where in the they were talking about body counts, and then somebody in the comment section was saying that the average woman over the age of 35 has a body count of like 50 to 70. And so then women were like, wait, I can't even remember all the people I have slept with since I first started having sex. And so it's easy for a woman who started having sex as a teenager to now be in her 30s and 40s and have that number. And it was this whole dialogue, and I thought, gosh, I think most people don't want to even look at the number, right? But
I should see that.
Yeah, but it's like, should we sip tequila over that one?
Man, I don't know. Well, I know I wasn't with 70 people, so I'm okay. You know, we out here though. We're talking about it. Let's talk about it though. What's your body count? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's buried. They're buried. They got it buried.
My answer is no face, no case.
No face, no case.
No face, no case.
Just know that body.
Oh my goodness. But you know, I think with the double standard, you have sort of like culturally, we're Latinos, we're Mexican, and there's this whole thing of like, oh, you know, the men can get together and like drink around the table, but if a woman pulls up a chair and starts drinking, everyone's like, oh, and that's shifting, right?
Yeah,
that's really
totally shifting.
And women are taking on a very alpha energy, even at like concerts and stuff that, with the bottle popping and all of that.
It is. Yeah, no, I mean, I can say it for myself, but I think the bottle popping part of it, though, and I can say this because I do it myself with my girlfriends, it's just because you don't want to, you get to an age where you no longer want to be what you call a bottle rat, and you're like, I can afford my own bottle with my girlfriends, and I don't need anyone to, you know, invite me to their table. I have the means to do for myself, and I think that that's the difference. But
it's true.
But you're right with what you're saying, though. I think that it's that male, that masculine energy that kind of is out there. Like, a man can no longer try to court you, because it's happened to me where they're like, hey, come at my table, and it's like, I'm in my table. Why would I want to go to your table? And it's like, as a matter of fact, I'm on stage. My table's better than your table, which is this whole masculine energy, and I wasn't doing it to try to like, you know, minimize
one-up them,
anyone
yeah.
or one up them, but it was really the reality of what was happening. And or I will even, you know, share another story. I remember growing up, I would tell my mom in Spanish, you know, to go to the bar. In Spanish, it's called cantina. So if you don't speak Spanish, this is a Spanish class, by the way, just FYI. So they would say, you know, I'm going to go to the cantina. And she's like, what? That's like equivalent to going like the strip club and the bar. And like,
Yes.
it's the like the worst of the worst. And I would tell my mom, like, it's not that big of a deal. I'm just going to a bar.
It's just
And
a cantina,
it's just a
Mom.
cantina. And it's not like, you know, the cantinas like nowadays. It was really frowned upon back in the day, by the way. And so now it's just very like, oh, we're going to the bar. Hey, come meet me for a drink at the bar. Like, that's what we're doing.
I will say to you that I remember there was somebody that was close to me, and it was a girl, and she was like, oh, let's go here. And I said, what is this? She's like, oh, it's like a little dive bar. And I literally was like, why in the actual heck would I do that? And like people say, let's do bar crawls. Let's go up north and do a bar crawl. And
You're
I'm like, what?
Who
And
does
so
that?
I personally had zero interest in it because for me, I guess culturally or just the way I was brought up, it was like, I don't want to just be in a bar. But I would go to nightclubs and there's a bar there, and I would go to lounges and there's a bar there, and I'd be grabbing a drink at the bar.
And
like,
it's not a big deal.
Right? But to go to these little bars, and even raising my sons, I remember my older son had a friend that was a server, you know, a bartender at this local little dive bar, and I'm like, ew, I called the baby. I'm like, ew, baby, you were at the bar, like that, like an actual bar. And he's all, Mom, I'm a guy. We go drink and we play pool.
Yeah, like, who
and
cares?
so for me, it was not my jam, but it's a very normal thing. It's a very normal thing.
It is super duper normal, and I'll even take it like a step further and like being even more open. So I remember we had gone to a nightclub, cool, we're partying, whatever. One of my girlfriends swore up and down that her boyfriend was going to be at the strip club. All right, she's like, we have to go. I didn't want to go, but I was like, you know what? Let's go then. One for all for one.
Yeah.
Roll up to the strip club. Okay, it's like 3-4 girls.
Yep.
We get there, we get inside, and guess who I see? My dad's friends are there.
No.
And they see me, and I know exactly who they are, and they know exactly who I am. They're not supposed to be there. Guess why? Because they're married, and it's late night, and I'm like, isn't that guy married? Isn't that guy married? Isn't, you know? And so, long story longer, they go and tell my dad, hey, your daughter is up to no good. Granted, this is way before I was even married.
Yeah.
And so the double standard there is, I'm not supposed to be there. Granted, I am very ladylike and what have you, but this happened to be one of those like young, silly things that you do. Like, all right, well, we're gonna go see if her boyfriend's there. Then it's a toxica.
Yeah,
it was a
they're
toxica
on a
night. We're trying
mission to bust them.
Yeah, to bust them. And then all of a sudden, he's telling my dad, hey, your daughter is up to no good. And he said, just let me tell you, I can't tell you where I saw her, but it's not a good place. And I'm like, you're not trying to get caught up. That's why. So there's that double standard in my opinion, right? But I think Cardi B, going back to strippers, she was a stripper, and now I think she's normalized that. And now it's like this thing where becoming a stripper is the thing. Like back in the day, it was so taboo.
Yeah, it's an actual career path.
It's
and when we were growing up, it was like whatever you do, you don't want your daughter to grow up to be a stripper. It was like the ultimate like worst thing that your daughter could become, besides pregnant, which I think is super just ridiculous too.
Yeah.
But you know, at the end of the day, I think the double standard thing lives strong. It keeps going.
Yes,
but I will say this. There's this whole weird thing about like men becoming like at-home dads, and maybe this is a whole other episode.
No, but it's so true.
But it's
that's
like
all part
women
of it.
can stay home and women can, you know, be domesticated. But if a man decides to be like an at-home dad and do all that, there's a stigma.
There is a stigma
around it. And I know. So let me ask you this.
Yep, there's that double standard.
How do you feel if you're making a bunch of money? Would you be comfortable with your man staying home?
So I would like to think that it would be a yes, and it would be unique to every circumstance, I'm sure. But right now, at this moment, I don't think that I'd be okay with it. Like right now, as I'm living this moment, I wouldn't want that. But if for whatever reason it just made sense for, I don't know, just logistically because of the kids, because of this, or because of that, I can see why, it would make sense maybe financially if you're making a lot of money. He's actually pretty domestic. He's taking care of things. I can kind of see it. I know Jillian Barbary, like, that's all she ever did from what I remember of
From
her.
the one guy,
yeah, she married the one guy with the 2 kids, and then he took care of the kids, and that was her thing. And then I think the last guy that was a baseball player, she ended up taking care of him too. So I think there's like these standards and these women that are okay with it. I was raised a little different, so right now I could say no, but I've heard a lot of stories where people are okay with it. And
so I know
know.
where my double standard comes in personally is I wouldn't want to be in a partnership where the husband is at home, not working. I think nowadays it's a little bit tough because people can make a lot of money working from home.
Sure.
So I think that part's different. It's not about the physicality of being home, but the unemployed thing or whatever.
Right.
So for me personally, in the energy wise, that would make me feel more masculine. And I can see how that dynamic would be like a no-go, especially it's just a no-go, but it's a little bit hypocritical because if I wouldn't mind necessarily being a woman who's being taken care of and who has access to the bank account to go handle the house needs. But if the roles were reversed, that's me admitting like I'm a little bit of a hypocrite there and I have a double standard when it comes to that because I just can't imagine
taking care of a man
on that level.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's,
So, because I'm Mother Goose, guys, there's a story. This guy worked, he was the general manager at this really fine dining steakhouse in South Pasadena, which if you guys know where Pasadena is, it was a really beautiful place. Point is, this guy gets unemployed, and he gets unemployment for quite some time, maybe a year. So he was still bringing income to the household. But the wife started liking the fact that there was income coming in, but he was taking care of the laundry, doing homework with the kids, making dinner. She was like, I don't know, I think she was the president of like some big company, and she made a lot of money. And I know her parents had such a hard time with it because after he like ran out of his unemployment, the parents are like, what the F is this man doing? And she's like, hey, don't worry about it. Like, I understand I'm Mexican and I grew up with these Latin background, like a Latina background of like the man's supposed to take care of you.
Yeah.
But I'm going to take care of him because he takes care of the things that I can't take care of.
Yeah.
So for her, she just described it as a dynamic that really worked. I know for me at this present time, I don't think that would work for me, but there's that double standard that we're talking about.
Yep.
It's like the cougarism. It's like that whole thing that we're
or
saying.
Or like, what about, for example,
too,
like the girls' night out thing? Like the girls' night out. I always saw it as like no big deal. It's girls' night out, blah, blah, blah. But if he started doing guys' night out, that was a no-go. Like, and not because I'm like, you better not. The one that I was married to was genuinely not interested in doing any of that. Thank goodness.
Right.
But if he would have said, yeah, since you went out, last weekend with your girls, I'm gonna go out with my boys, and I would be a little bit, I would probably be acting really supportive, but deep inside not being with it. And the reason why is because I think with the girls' nights out, and although in another episode we talk about how that could go south really quick. On the fail to mention stuff, but I think because women can go out and dance with each other and have drinks and be silly and just and want to feel pretty, but they can do that with each other. Guys aren't going to be like, hey man, it's my jam, you want to go dance? They're not going to dance with each other.
And then just totally hop around.
Yeah. And girls can go to a strip club and throw dollar bills and have fun and it's all harmless. Where guys can go to a strip club and they're literally like thinking about how to cash this one out, like
cash.
Yeah,
cash
like
her
let's
out.
cash her
outside
out.
or inside.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like cash her outside.
Cash her inside. Actually, one of the private rooms.
You know what I mean? The champagne room. And I think at the end of the day, like those are the dynamics that just by nature, like don't work. And so yes, although women can go out and have girls' nights out, and it could go bad, and cheating can happen, and all this kind of stuff. For the most part, if a woman just wants to go out and have fun, she can actually just have a good time with her girlfriends, and it can truly be harmless. Where if a guy goes out, it's like, you're gonna go out tonight and you're not gonna get home till 4 a.m. Like, I don't know. So I think in life there is a lot of double standards, and I think in society as women we're pushing back really hard on some of these double standards because of equal pay, because of like we're just like we could be accomplishing the same as men,
right, or more sometimes,
know.
or more lately actually. And yeah, no, I agree. I think that, you know, when it comes to the whole double standard part of it, there's just like so many, there's like a list. It's so long,
many layers.
so long. Like, I'll give you an example. If a woman rolls up in a sports car,
Oh yes,
you know what,
this.
like a Lamborghini or a Ferrari or any of those kind of cars, you automatically assume it's the husband.
The husband paid for it.
It's not yours. Like, you didn't buy that. It is the husband's, or the husband, ex-husband's money, or somehow it's correlated to a man. It's not you. It's not you that did that.
Yeah.
It's really strange how that works, because there's also that double standard there, in my opinion.
It's so true. Women, we judge other women very, very quickly. On that note, similar to that, like we can talk even about like intelligence level.
Right.
And it's interesting to see that like some men who even are intelligent, they don't necessarily, they want you to have the ability and the capability or whatever. To be able to have great, well-rounded conversations, especially if they're high-level men. They want you to be able to work a room with very high-level individuals, and that's all fine and dandy. But if you're like too smart, it's not gonna work. Like it literally does not work.
I was listening to someone say that it's not that you have to dumb yourself down, but you almost have to make it seem like you don't know what they're saying, and you have to almost pretend like they're teaching you something to say, oh wow, I didn't know that. And even if you can like provide them with a wealth of even more knowledge, you're supposed to just nod your head and say, I didn't know that, rather than saying, did you know not only that, but then there's this, that, and if you check this website and it links you up to the solar system, and it'll show you this or that, and the guys are like, what? And then they don't like that.
They don't like
it.
Delia and I had a conversation a while back. We were talking about, because she says, I don't do all that fangirl stuff. And I was talking about guys that have like their nice cars. And I said, I know what I do. And what I'm doing, I'm about to break girl code here and tell you what I do in a way. Yeah. Because when I see a guy who's trying to impress me with that, what's it called? The angel of whatever. You know what I mean? Like on the dash.
Energy?
No, the Rolls Royces have what's her name? They have an angel on the thing. Okay. When they're trying to impress me with their vehicles or the things that they have, right?
Oh, okay.
I told Delia that I will literally be like, oh wow, like, so congratulations. I will give them congratulations, and I'll say, okay, so tell me about all the smart moves you made to be able to afford this. It gives them a chance to then brag about themselves and talk about themselves. So then you were saying like, oh yeah, I don't do that fangirl shit. But the funny
it's not the energy is not that I don't want to. It's just that.
No, but not to put you on the spot, but what I'm trying to get at is agreeing with what you said.
Right.
You're not actually, like, I'm not actually impressed by that stuff.
Okay.
But what I'm doing is I'm giving them the opportunity to feel like they can kind of puff up.
Very important.
And be like, let me tell you how awesome I am to have been able to do this. And they need that. And they need that. And so it's the same thing with the intellect. Yeah. It's true. When you work a room, and let's just say you got Jeff Bezos in the house, and you got your 5 minutes in front of him. We talk about how did you make your first $1 million? Yeah. If you had to do it all over again, how would you do it? And just really coming from that position of learning and that position of teach me.
Right. So for me, I guess it kind of comes off as more, it could come off depending on who you're talking to and how. It's not ever what you say is how you say it. So only in my opinion, I feel the reason why also is because it could come off as very gold diggerish, respectfully. Because it's like, oh my God, it's a Rolls Royce, and how'd you do this? And it can come off as very gold diggerish. I'm not saying that I don't appreciate a man that has a Rolls Royce. Obviously, they did some good moves. They did some smart moves to get there. But that's the position that I see it in, only because in my past, and maybe, it's like you kind of go back in time, I feel like when I would see that, I'm like, this girl's such a gold digger, like, and it would bug me. So that's the reason why, for me, I'd rather be a little bit more on the nonchalant acknowledge it's a beautiful car, but everyone has their own way of like moving, by the way. Like
Right.
that's my way is not the right way, your way is not the right
but
way,
the
but
double
that's your
standard,
way.
But the double
that's just your
yeah,
way,
but the double I'm
Yeah.
talking about the double standard, because it's so funny when you talk to men and you say, how can you spot a gold digger? They won't actually say that. They'll say, she knows her cars. She knows her watches.
Right.
She knows the man's shoes. She
Right.
knows. And so that's how they spot them. So it's the confident ones. But see, we're talking about double standards, because why shouldn't we feel comfortable knowing our cars? I know the
Right.
cars. Like, I could spot, Delia's even better at it, right, than I am, because I'll say, hey, your team, like, I'll see a Bentley and be like, take a picture and be like, hashtag your team, and she'll go, yeah, but I could tell by the lights that's the old one. And I'm like, ooh, he failed.
Well, it's only because, I had one and I see them and I know them and I'm like, well, maybe I don't have the newer one, but I know, I follow them because I'm like, oh, they're nice.
But the double standard
there is a double standard
the
there.
men will want to make the money because they know they're going to get the power that's going to get the girls. But then if you're the girl, the woman, I should say, not girls, girls are young girls, the woman who acknowledges or recognizes, like, oh, I know what that's about. Like, that's cool. Congratulations. Suddenly now there's like a
But sometimes guys do, as much as they want to frown upon the girl that is a gold digger, sometimes guys do like the girls that are like, oh my god,
oh yeah,
I can't believe I'm here in the hotel.
That's what they did
this and
no period.
Oh, no,
that's what they did it.
And that's literally what they want, and then they say they don't want that, but then they do.
That's
they
the double
want
standard.
It.
Like they're like, oh, I'm doing all this in the world to attract you, but don't you act like you like
want,
it, because now I'm going to judge you as a gold digger, and it's this never-ending like dance.
It's an evil cycle. It's a ridiculous evil cycle. Like,
and I know we're always talking about money and some of that, but at the end of the day, the double standards
we're not always
live.
talking about money. It's really what it is, though.
But
like,
the double standards
are like that.
live in the relationships, everybody's relationship. And it's like, what's another example of like a really common thing that is a double standard that you think?
That I think.
Oh, how about like even like the cussing?
No. Okay, but I will tell you another double standard that's very obvious and apparent, and maybe that's changed now. But like, even growing up, like as I have a brother that's 15 months older than me. And it's like, no, I had to do the dishes. I had to, mop and sweep and vacuum. And it's like, when you get older, you need to know how to do this. But do you think my brother needed to learn that?
Oh, that's so
Absolutely
true.
not.
That is
my brother
true.
did not need to learn those things. Does he know how to do it? Of course he does. And actually, my brother is a very good cook. But for me, like my mom would have me in the kitchen and say, you need to know how to cut a tomato. You need to know how to cut an onion. I do the same thing with my two daughters, but I don't have a son, so I can't compare it to what I would do if I had a son. But growing up, it's like, why is he allowed to go out and not me? Because he's a guy, because he's a boy. You can't go.
Yep.
And it was always like that. Well, because he was the boy, he was able to run amok with all his friends. I had to have a curfew. I had to be home at a certain time. And that is a big double standard. And depending on who your parents are and how old they are, they're still raising some generations to be that way, by the way.
That's so true.
Still raising them that way.
I didn't have daughters. I had sons. But I know that for me growing up, my grandparents took a big role in my life. And so there was the four of us grandkids. And it was 2 boys and 2 girls. And so my girl cousin and I, we had to put the stool up and do the dishes, wash and dry, and then they could just be running around playing with the trucks or whatever. And so I remember asking my grandparents, like, why do I have to do this? And they go, because we got to prepare you for this and that. And I said, no, because I'm going to marry a rich man, and I'm going to have a maid and all this kind of stuff. Well, anyways, I ended up not marrying a rich man at all. But guess what? I naturally wanted to do it and learn.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's true. We condition our children from young. We're conditioned.
Our little girls and our little boys. Again, I don't know because I don't have little boys. But I can speak from my personal experience growing up with a brother and seeing the differences as far as like the way I was treated versus the way he was treated, the way that I was supposed to do things and he wasn't. I was supposed to pick up his plate sometimes and like wash it. Like, not that I would always do that, by the way. I don't want to sit here and act like I was his maid because that's not true. But it was more like that was part of what I was supposed to do, of service.
Yes.
Granted, I do believe, and this is something that's kind of come up within my daughters, because they'll say, well, my one little friend, her mom said that she's gonna make so much money she'll never have to do those things, so she doesn't have to learn these things. So, but here's the kicker to that, by the way, FYI, I tell my daughter. So my daughter has a friend, and basically her friend said that her mom and her dad said that she would never have to do any of the chores, housework, anything that has anything to do with like any laborious work, because she'll always have the money to take care of, having the maids and so forth.
Yeah.
But here's what I said. In order for you to give direction to anybody, you have to know how to do it.
Yeah.
And that's usually in business and anything that you do. So I always tell my daughters, when you go to cut an onion, you got to know what you're cutting it for. Is it for tacos, fajitas? Is it just because? Is it for burgers? Like, you have to know what you're doing basics, and how are you going to give someone direction. So I understand the new standards of like, no, there's equality and the girls are maybe now being raised a little different. But I will tell you, growing up, definitely a double standard. Beyond. Definitely.
I saw a TikTok video that had this young, very attractive mom, and she had her little boy maybe like a year old on her hip, and she said, "Mothers, teach your daughters how to get a job, because my son ain't cash apping no one." And I loved it because I'm a boy mom, okay? I loved it. But the double standard is, if I had daughters, I would want them to end up with someone who would be generous to them and who would provide and who would do all these things. But as a boy mom, I completely resonated with her. And I was like, yeah, because not to say that women are taking advantage of men.
Right.
I raised my sons to understand that when they enter into a marriage, that they should be wonderful providers.
Yes.
And so that's the thing. I didn't say, hey, go marry a woman who can carry half the finances.
The way,
I said, no, be prepared to, if she wants to go work, let her go work. If she wants to make her own money, let her go make her own money. But be prepared to be the one to carry the bulk of the lifestyle. Yeah. But this TikTok that I saw, I was like, here we go. Well,
obviously she did what she was supposed to do, which is to go viral, and obviously she went viral. And
but that's a double standard too.
Super double standard.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a huge double standard there. At the end of the day, I think, if you end up with someone that is maybe more domestic, likes to cook and likes to bake, that's okay if that's what they like to do,
Yeah.
I'm not going to take that from them if that's their passion.
Right.
I know that if you like to bake and cook like I do, then you just share that equal passion to say, well, let's get in the kitchen together.
Yeah.
If it's not that way, it's okay. But I think nowadays definitely things are becoming more equal. Like, well, I do the cooking, you do the dishes, or vice versa. And if that dynamic works, it's okay. It's just when it's something that becomes your job, that's when it's an issue. Like, that's your job. You are supposed to do the laundry because you're the woman. And you're supposed to do dinner because you're the woman.
Yes.
And even if both of you guys are running a household where you guys are both working, coming home at the same time, where he expects dinner to be made, it's like, it's not going to make itself. Like, we have to be a team, and there has to be some type of, wouldn't say necessarily equality, right? But there can't be this thing where, well, you're the man and this is what you're supposed to do, and you're the woman, this is what you're supposed to do. Because sometimes women will also minimize men to say, well, you're just my freaking roommate. Like, you just pay half the bills. You're the freaking roommate. And that is horrible. I mean, you're chopping off the man's, scrotum right there with that, in my opinion. Like, chop off his scrotum, might as well.
I always feel like if you're a man watching this and you are marrying someone and then you're making her go to work, and I say making her, okay, because if you're in a position where she's going to have to go work all these hours and commute, so she's adding to the bag. I'm not talking about women who are making their money and that's their money, and then you're the provider and whatever. I'm talking about you rely on her to bring in that 50%. And you're still expecting the 1950s, have a hot plate, have the clothes clean, have the house clean, have the kids' homework done, like all of that. You need to kind of snap out of it. This is your wake-up call to say, hey. I get it if there's women that go, it's okay, I can do it all. Most of us have been able to do it all. but it's an unrealistic thing.
And if you're not married and that's what you expect from a woman, all I can tell you is make enough money to get yourself a maid.
Yes, on period.
Someone
I'm on the end.
Yeah, the end. Like, honestly, because
Yes.
at the end of the day, if that's what you're looking for, it's probably cheaper for you just to get a maid
Yeah.
to do everything that you need and want versus just expecting her to be, you know, the freaking porn star
Yeah.
in bed, the one that cooks, the one
Yeah.
that cleans, the one that takes care of this and takes care of the kids and looks freaking phenomenal and stays in shape.
Yep.
And you're looking for all this stuff. Granted, we as women try to do the whole balancing act, but if it's an expectation where it becomes your job,
Yeah.
it's
If you're
probably
fighting
better.
over it, you can solve that.
Right.
Just add money to the bag
And
to
then you're
cover the
good.
person that comes and cleans and does
And
whatever.
that's it.
Yeah.
And that's
yeah.
what it boils down to. So
Double standards.
Double
Oh my gosh, they exist.
standards.
We're never gonna probably break them completely
we're never
free.
going to understand it, but whatever dynamic works for you,
Yes.
like try to just be peaceful and
Yes.
be gracious and just that's it.
That is it.
Ooh, so anyway,
No matter what happens, don't forget that you deserve fresh lettuce. See you next week.
Salut. Cheers.